All right, welcome to the coffee break. This is the episode number 99. So 2 more weeks will be 100. And thank you very much for joining and for coming, for many of those coffee breaks. We started, I don't know, 2020, the middle of the pandemic, and going strong ever since. And it's always a pleasure to have you here. Always interesting discussions. As usual, this is a very open space. Any questions or topics or projects that you're working on, if you want to ask, open up your microphone, your camera, and yeah, anything interesting going on. Or any questions? I see new names, I guess. Stop share. Oh, yeah. Josh, you said Benjamin. Yes, open up the microphone.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question. So right now we're trying to create a chatbot to help us define or basically make requests on which project are created inside of our own hub. Um, we are still at the architecture of the app, but we would like to know if there's any limitation or any guidance on how we can utilize the API for the request by different, let's say, users. So the architecture right now is a user from the chatbot will ask if there's a project already created, and the chatbot will give basically the information, yes or no, the project is created. The big problem that I'm trying to figure out is the time response between all the different users, because we have a lot of different users.
So let me get this right. So you have a chatbot, like an interface with ACC projects, right?
Not yet. Basically, for now, the chatbot will probably be on Teams.
On Teams, okay.
Uh-huh.
So you want to ask the chatbot if project A or project B is already there, otherwise create, or you want to query about files and data on that project, right?
Only to see if the project are already made, and if not, you can create it.
Okay. Why Teams?
Right now, because Teams is our main channel on communication, but we are open to choose different.
When you say Teams, Microsoft Teams, or
yeah, sorry, Microsoft Teams, not BIM 360
okay.
team. My bad.
Okay. All right. So why? What? So okay, I'm confused now. So you are asking Microsoft Teams if a project is created. How does it relate to APS?
That's the thing that we're trying to figure out. So from the chatbot, we would like basically from Teams, the chatbot will basically create a request to APS, and the APS will come back with the credential with all the JSON information. Like if I did a Postman request, let's say, this is the same. That's the same goal that we're trying to achieve.
But what are you using APS for? To do what with APS?
To retrieve the information if the project is created, and after that, if it's not created, to create the project with APS.
And the project is on ACC.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So after that, okay, got it. Okay, makes sense. And you said that you have concerns about users because you have many users.
Yes. We have probably more than 1,000 users.
But what is the concern about rate limiting, or what is the concern there?
Rate limiting. Yep.
Okay. All right. So makes sense. So before that, right? So the one thing for you to consider is about permissions, right?
Yep.
So whenever user A is calling this interface through Teams, that user actually needs to be authenticated with ACC to get ACC data, right? And think that although we have many projects, we also have many accounts. So user A can be part of account A, but not account B.
Yep.
And even within account A, the user may have access to project 1, 2, 3, but not to project 4. So even if user A asks, is there a project 4? The system will tell no, because he doesn't have access to it. But the project is there just because that user does not have access to it. Right? So you have to think about those things as well.
Yep.
Because it may be true for that user. There is no project for, but the project for exists because he doesn't have access to it. So you have to think about that as well. Permissions.
Yep.
I interrupted you when you were going to say something.
No, so basically for now, what we've thought about it, we haven't done anything yet, but we want the chatbot to be like an admin bot. So it will be able to see on our hub all our different projects. For the different accounts, we will wait for a second phase on how we can manage that, because I am an account admin, but I'm not an account admin on different hubs. So I just want to make sure that our different admins have access to all the different projects, or just query all the different projects on basically on our teams to make sure that the bot is already there so we can retrieve the information. But that's another phase. Right now, we are trying to concentrate our strength or to be more optimal on our hub right now.
Yeah. So now one thing about rate limit and ACC is that many endpoints or many of the services will have a limit per user, and some of them will have limit per application. So and you have to look at these, right? So for instance, admin will have a limit per application, while something like, I would say, maybe model coordination, per user, right? So in an API that is per user, you don't have to worry about, right? So if you have 1,000 users, the limit will be 600 per 1,000 per each of those 1,000 users. But here, in this case, the limit is on the application. So if you have 1,000 users, the limit of 100 will be shared across them.
Okay.
So that's the one that you could be in trouble. But the thing is that our rate limit is really about not only about protecting the usage, but also protecting the system, right? So you see here that the read endpoints, they have a higher limit, but the write endpoints have a lower limit. Because if you send a request to create 100 projects in 1 minute, the system will really take a long time to do it, right? Because to create a project is not something like press a button and it's there. It creates lots of data in the backend. Now, I would say that in any case, you do have to consider rate limit. If it's not, to just say your message is queued up and we're going to retry later. And even if it's acknowledged by our service that we are going to create a project for you, may take a few minutes to actually create the project. So your UI will say, Autodesk acknowledge that they will create the project. We will reply when the project is ready. So all that to say, I believe that anything like that needs to be asynchronous or awaitable, right? So every time you get the message from the user to do something, you first send that to your queue, acknowledge, and then as the task evolves, you keep updating the user that this is moving, this will get in progress.
Makes sense.
Did I get this right?
Yep.
Anything to add, Michael, João, Kevin?
You're probably going to want to use that search API, which has a user context as well. Three-legged authentication, user context. But yeah, I think as Augusto said, a chatbot just is going to have, it's going to need to have understanding of security permissions, who can access what. That's a tricky problem.
Yeah, we haven't done anything yet, but we're trying to prevent any future problems. so yeah.
There was a project similar to this connecting with WhatsApp in the hackathon we had 2 or 3 years ago. So if you check the recording, he was connecting with issues at that time. So it was very similar, but instead of Teams, it used WhatsApp. So
all right, I'll take a look. All right, I'll look into it. Should I look on the YouTube APS or directly on GitHub?
Yeah, I believe it is on YouTube APS. I'll try to find it and send through the chat window. 1 second.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Very nice.
And that was like a early hack, I would say, right? So if you're going to really scale this up to thousands of users, you really have to pay attention to permissions and limits that will definitely, bite you back. I think the one that I'm really concerned is about permissions, right? So especially if you're going to create a new project because the project may be there, and that's the case that that user does not have access to it. Now, you may be tempted to create a master account that can confirm that for you, but then you can very easily fall into the case where you are just exposing data that should not be exposing, right? So you have to be very careful there. I don't know how restrict you are with that, but think that if user A doesn't know about project A, and then he sees that project exists, that may be a security breach, right? Because he now knows that project exists, and that could be a bidding problem because they know that it's there, someone is working on it. So
yeah, it's something that we're trying to look into with our IT department on how basically we can avoid those security breaches. So if it's needs for because we have a few secret projects that a few users cannot access to, so we'll try to make a filter on these ones so the user won't see that the project exists, or to communicate with a certain person to have more information.
Interesting. I've got now a curiosity question from my side. This chatbot will run from Teams, from within Teams?
I believe so. Right now, there's nothing confirmed yet, but this is the direction that we want to take so far.
I think the question is, why Teams? Why do you want to have this chatbot from Teams and not like somewhere else, or even its own UI? If you can
mainly,
answer, sorry.
no problem. I believe it's because our people right now are utilize more and more Microsoft Teams, and creating a new UI or just another chat box outside of Teams or basically another app for this will be more challenging to make people say, all right, you need to go there if you want to ask something. So something like that. So it's more on the user end that we're trying not to change everything or to add more stuff.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, it sounds basically like a convenience for people, right?
Yep.
And I'm curious. I'm doing a little multitasking, so maybe you already talked about this, but could Teams be used to see who the user is and yeah, so make sure that user is the one that's authenticated.
Yeah, if they have single sign-on, should be a bit easier.
All right, thank you.
So John shared the video on the channel, on the chat. This is a presentation of all the demos, and we point on the time where this company was showing them. By the way, that company, it's a consultant. What's the name? A partner that that provides consulting services. If you wanna reach out to them.
Okay, cool. Thank you for all your insight. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Great questions. Interesting topic. Any other questions or topics?
Hello.
You're speaking on mute, Augusto.
Yeah, he's on mute.
Yeah, we can hear you. Are you going to ask anything?
Yes, and this is probably a little bit off topic, but I've been working a lot on energy models and energy simulations. And I wanted to know, so right now, with the analytical model in Revit, you have to go through the desktop version of Revit. But with all of the new setup of GraphQL and the new APIs, are there any plans that you can run an Energy Plus simulation purely from the Autodesk Platform Services without depending on the desktop version of the model. I would like to be able to run an energy simulation I don't think so. You have spaces in the published model. I think that's an element that you can access on APS, but I've never seen the analytical model or the analytical spaces that you would use to run an energy simulation there. I'm hoping that there's plans that would change.
Yeah, so there was a request in the early days of our data model, betas, to have the analytical model in the data model, and I believe they did eventually add it. Zhao, do you know if it's specifically there in the AEC data model?
Yeah, as far as I know, not yet in the current version, but if you can please follow up with a request, I can dig deeper for that. If you have a sample model, we can double test.
Yeah, and just, even if it's there, you wouldn't necessarily be able to run the analysis, but at least the data is there.
Yeah,
And in
no
theory,
geometries also. He might need the geometry, so we have no support for geometries as of now.
Yeah, to do the energy simulation, we would need the geometry to run a complete energy simulation. I would. Oh, I'm sorry. I got a message that popped up asking for translation.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Right.
I'd never seen that before. It threw me off. Yes, it would be such a big win to be able to run an energy simulation through APS without having to go through the desktop version of the Revit engine. I think it would be a very popular capability.
Even though, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Even though you might not be able to do that right now because we don't have support for geometries in the AC data model, it might be a place, it might be an option to use the design automation for that. If you can do that with the Revit API, you mentioned you want to get rid of the desktop application. Design automation works on this kind of workflows. So if you have that supported through Revit API, you can address that using design automation. Have you tried design automation?
Until you just said it, it never occurred to me that I never it never occurred to me that would be a possibility to run the energy. Well, I think it would be the Autodesk Insight, but theoretically that should be possible. I have not tried it. I will investigate further. That would be really cool as well.
I think the challenge with design automation is that we're talking about local versus published project, right? So if the project is local, it's not published yet, right? So it will not be available there.
Even in this case, he can do like the tutorial, right? Upload to a bucket, run the job.
No,
and
yeah,
then...
yeah, but then so I'm thinking large projects, right? So if you have like a gig size project, you need to upload that in parallel before publishing. So it's a rough trade-off comparing to do it locally, because you have to upload the whole thing. So I'm saying just to consider, Moses, because if we're talking about local versus published, right? Design automation will only be available after you publish the module and the module is ready on the cloud. Or if it's local, you have to upload yourself to a place on the cloud, then run design automation. So you have to think about this trade-off.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. I'm gonna give it a try with our published models.
That would work, yeah.
Understanding that it's not going to be as up to date as the local models that we work on day-to-day basis. We published on a weekly cadence, but I would still like to give that a try.
Yeah. So one thing I'd like to suggest to people is that, right? So if you're running something on the desktop, right, it's giving you real-time feedback on your work, right? So as you design, the system keeps checking the data and providing you feedback, right? Now, when you run on the cloud, and really about Revit cases, right? So when you run on the cloud, you are thinking that the system will check the data for you once you finalize that work. So I'm working for a week. When I publish, the system will check all of that for me, provide me feedback. So what are you looking for here? Are you looking for real-time feedback? So yeah, for Revit, so yes, desktop would be the ideal place, right? As you design, as you work, the system keeps checking for data and providing you real-time feedback. Now, if you want to validate if all that you have is good, then run on the cloud. So if this is something, if this kind of validation is a gatekeeper, right? So you're saying yes or no, this project is approved, right? It's better to run the public model because lots of people will work on it. They will publish, right? As soon as they will sync. As soon as they publish the model by the end of the week, you run a series of analysis and generate a report that says, no, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. And you have a weekly summary of your work. So are you looking for, you have to think where you want to run the check, right? Maybe you want to do both. You want to do real time as they do, and then you want to run this check by the end of the week. So think about it, where you want to do the check.
Great points. I would choose for us the latter, running the validation at the end of the week, saying all the work done up to date is good, except for 1, 2, and 3, and then do a check the following week.
Yeah, that's a great case for design automation, right? So Friday night, everyone publishes, then you trigger a process that may take 2 days to run because it's very long and complex. By Monday morning, you have a report on your inbox saying, no, this is good, this is bad, this is good, right? So you know what you have to do next to fix those things. Yeah, great point. Anything else there, Moses?
No, that's what's my main question. I've been lately really immersed in the energy models and total carbon insight in the operational model. Haven't really looked into what's available via the API or specifically designed automation, but that's a great avenue to investigate, and it would be new to me. But theoretically, that all should be accessible through design automation, because what it actually does is it once you run the analytical model, it was formerly known as Green Building Studio, but now it's called Next Generation Insight, and it will actually publish the sustainability reports to the cloud itself. But it seems as though they're separate clouds, APS and Next Generation Insight, but design automation could be a bridge between the published model and the reports on Next Generation Insight. So looking forward to looking into that.
Yeah, makes sense. Great, thank you. Any other questions or topics? I was just saying that I was hoping to quickly show you guys a couple things that are interesting. So the first thing is about these better reports on token usage. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but when you log in and go to your account, you have your application. We already have this transfer ownership going on for a while. And now you can select the application and see token usage for that, right? So you see breakdowns. There is no per API. You can also download the data, specify the time frame, and gets you better estimate there. Related to this topic, related to the developer portal, one important thing about creating your application, it's about key and secret, right? So your secret, it's secret, of course, right? And should be rotated once in a while, right? So how do you do it today? You generate a new secret and update on your system, but that generates a downtime, right? Between the new secret is generated and you are deployed to your production environment. There's a delay there that could be a downtime. Now we have a new API called Secret Rotation API that is part of this managing your application. And we are running a beta for it. So if you are interested in doing automated secret rotation on your system, reach out. We have a way to do that through the API. It's in beta. We want to get your feedback and see if that works for you. So contact us via support@aps.help@autodesk.com or directly to myself, right? So my first.last name, augusto.gonçalves, and we can discuss that. That would be a good for you to have this rotation more secure, and there is no downtime because you have a rotation system for it, so it works better. Questions? A quick show of hands. We are doing a beta for Maya Bifrost engine graphs. It's called FrogGraph engine. There's a new service. Anyone here doing Maya work with Bifrost graph? Yeah, it's very specific, so that's what I was asking. So yeah, interesting. Okay, we are getting very close to the end. Any last questions or topics before we finalize?
I want to just remind people of the boot camps coming next week.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, manufacturing boot camp and AEC boot camp.
Do we have
for the data models? Yeah,
how do we get that?
that's a good
So
question.
yeah, go to community events. If you scroll down, there should be training model, data model focus, register for free. Did I get this right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also,
Yeah,
the
that would be
accelerator
interesting.
end of this month.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah, that's
I
it.
have a question. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Moses.
I have a question. I didn't want to run out of time. I have a question about the data model. The data model does not include geometry, correct? It's mostly the exposing the Revit data schema. Is that how it works?
So,
Yes, that's correct. We don't support geometries yet. In this first release, you have access to data extracted from Revit 2024 or 2025 designs. It happens with a translation if you enable your hub, and then you can query this data using a specific syntax to
Moses, can
aggregate it.
you elaborate what do you mean by geometry? What do you need there?
So I'm thinking of embodied carbon and even the example, Augusto, that you did a while back where you took the length and the width and the volume of, say, the parts of a wall and applied the embodied carbon profile, the tons of carbon associated with that volume. Is that something that could be better achieved with the data model? Could I still get the length, the width, the thickness of wall components through the data model, or do I need the geometry?
Yes, you can retrieve this data using the ACE Data Model API. One limitation, though, is that for specific elements, you might have compound structure, and the extractor is not extracting all of the internal materials. So for that, you need to go through design automation for Revit. If in your workflow, you don't need the compound structure, all of the internal materials, then you can query that using the ACE Data Model API, because you can access the elements length, with and all of the properties. Okay.
Right, right. I think my gut feeling is I will need the compound structure in order to do that, if I remember correctly. And I'm thinking back to the example that Augusto did a while back, where he went looped through the compound structure to get the materials, and then got the volume of the material, and then did the analysis that way. Okay, but I'll find another use case for the data model. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me get, where is my screen here? No, I didn't share this right. Let's share. Okay. With that, just on time. Thank you very much for joining the coffee break today. Next one will be same time, same link on the 24th. And thank you for joining today, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.